In the year 218 AD, a 14-year-old boy stood before a mob of Roman soldiers and told them he was their emperor. He had no army of his own, no political experience, no legal claim to the throne. He was, by all accounts, a temple priest from Syria, whose most notable skill was performing religious rituals most Romans found deeply offensive. And yet, within days, the most powerful empire on earth belonged to him. His name was Elagabalus, and what happened next is one of the strangest, most disturbing, and most deliberately buried stories in all of Roman history. To understand how a teenage priest ended up on the Roman throne, you need to understand just how unstable Rome had become by the 3rd century. The empire was enormous, stretching from Britain to Mesopotamia, but it was held together less by law than by the loyalty of its legions. Whoever controlled the army controlled Rome, and the army's loyalty could be bought, inherited, or simply seized. Elagabalus was born Varius Avitus Bassianus around 203 AD in the city of Emesa in modern-day Syria. His family was powerful in the region. His grandmother, Julia Maesa, was the sister of the former emperor Septimius Severus's wife. That bloodline connection to the imperial family was faint, but it existed. By the time Elagabalus was a teenager, he had become the high priest of the sun god Elagabal, a Syrian deity whose worship involved elaborate ceremonies, animal sacrifice, and rituals that Romans considered strange even by the standards of their own polytheistic religion. He was, by all historical accounts, strikingly beautiful, and his grandmother Julia Maesa recognized that beauty, combined with that distant imperial bloodline, as a political weapon. In 218 AD, the sitting emperor was Macrinus, a low-born official who had seized power after the assassination of Caracalla and was deeply unpopular with the legions stationed in Syria. Julia Maesa saw her opening. She spread a rumor, almost certainly fabricated, that Elagabalus was actually the illegitimate son of the beloved emperor Caracalla. It was a lie with no real evidence, but it didn't need to be true. It just needed to be believable enough. She brought the boy to the military camp of the 3 Gallica Legion at night. When the soldiers woke up and saw this beautiful teenager, who supposedly carried the blood of Caracalla, something remarkable happened. They declared him emperor. Macrinus, the actual emperor, found out and marched to confront them. The battle that followed was brief and humiliating. His troops defected. He fled. He was captured and executed shortly after, along with his son. Just like that, in a matter of days, a 14-year-old Syrian priest was now emperor of Rome. What happened over the next 4 years defies easy summary. Historians have debated for centuries whether the ancient sources exaggerated, fabricated, or accurately recorded what Elagabalus did in power. What's not disputed, Elagabalus arrived in Rome and immediately made clear he had no interest in pretending to be a conventional Roman emperor. His primary obsession was his god. He had the sacred black stone of Elagabal, a meteorite worshipped in Syria, transported to Rome and installed in a new temple on the Palatine Hill, directly next to the temple of Jupiter, the king of the Roman gods. He then declared Elagabal to be the supreme deity of the entire Roman pantheon, above Jupiter, above all others. This was not a minor theological adjustment. Rome had absorbed dozens of foreign religions over the centuries, but always beneath the existing Roman gods. What Elagabalus was doing was different. He was telling Romans that their gods were subordinate to a Syrian rock. The Roman Senate tolerated it, barely. The army was less sure. And the Roman public, who had a complicated relationship with religious change at the best of times, was disturbed. But religion was only part of the story. The ancient sources describe Elagabalus as a figure of almost theatrical excess. He allegedly held elaborate dinner parties where guests were buried under an avalanche of flower petals released from the ceiling, some reportedly suffocated. He supposedly wore makeup and silk robes in public at a time when Roman masculinity was defined by austerity and military bearing. He married and divorced multiple women in rapid succession, including a Vestal Virgin, one of Rome's most sacred religious figures, whose celibacy was considered foundational to the safety of the Roman state. The marriage was to Rome not just scandalous, but sacrilegious. Some ancient historians go further, claiming Elagabalus, privately identified as a woman, sought out a surgeon who might perform what we might today call gender-affirming surgery, and referred to a male charioteer as husband. Scholars still debate how much of this reflects reality versus the hostile propaganda of later writers who wanted to discredit him. What's clear is that Elagabalus was, by every metric Rome used to judge an emperor, catastrophically wrong for the job. And Rome was growing impatient. His grandmother, Julia Maza, who had engineered his rise, could see the writing on the wall. She began quietly positioning his cousin, a more conservative, more palatable teenager named Alexander Severus, as a backup. She convinced Elagabalus to adopt Alexander as his heir, presenting it as a gesture of stability. It was a trap. The Praetorian Guard, the emperor's own bodyguards, historically the kingmakers and kingbreakers of Rome, began shifting their loyalty toward Alexander. When Elagabalus realized what was happening, he tried to have Alexander arrested. The guard refused. On March 11, 222 AD, the Praetorian Guard marched on Elagabalus. He tried to hide. According to the ancient sources, he was found in a latrine, possibly attempting to escape through the sewers. He was killed at 18 years old. His mother, who had tried to shield him, was killed alongside him.